When you took over as interim manager, was survival what you wanted? Was that the only vision you had?
That was all. We were so far behind when we started that was only what you would accept. That if you could say to me then we'd have survived in the second division, I'd say thanks very much. I'll take that. Thank you.
Did you ever think that it wouldn't be possible, or did you always know that you could do it?
That's a good question. Because the players that we had were obviously the same players, near enough. We brought in a few loan players that worked for us, and the initial strategy was, when we started in October, the end of September, beginning of October, was to try some way to stimulate the players. And the best way I thought we could do that was by playing young players, giving young players a chance. And it was a gamble initially that paid off, because if you remember, we got the result against East Fife. We did well in a couple of games after that, and the tactic worked, because then the established players sat up and said, wait a minute, he's not going to play us here, he's going to play kids. So they've then stepped up to the mark, and if they weren't delivering before, they certainly delivered after that. And obviously the young players have been phased out to a certain extent, but that was my hope, that these established players would then step up and say, here's what I can really do. And I mean, I'll not name any names, but there were players who were languishing, weren't playing to form, weren't doing what we expected of them, and all of a sudden they stepped up and they said, right, here's what I can do. And it's worked. We've had a few pitfalls along the way, but to finish 7th, if you'd said to me we'd finish 7th in October, I'd have said, that's a hard task. That's a hard ask.
I mean, a lot of the players that I've spoken to tonight have all mentioned that the young guys coming through and their enthusiasm for the game really sort of pushed them on, to find that little bit extra.
Good.
And they've all mentioned the spirit that became in the team, and how they all helped each other.
Yeah.
Is that something you intentionally tried to get, or just sort of happened?
We gave them a platform because they're good players. They're good players, and we had to try and get that across to them that they were good players. And it's time they started expressing themselves in the park the way they could do, and we knew they could do it. But it was just a case of building. Confidence is a word that a lot of people don't like. I like the word confidence. I believe in confidence, because when I played, if I was playing with confidence, you felt you could do anything in the park. I mean, obviously you couldn't, but you felt you could. So if you can get that flowing through the team, players doing what they're good at, goal scorers scoring goals, midfield players creating stuff, defenders winning tackles, that's what they were brought to the club for, and that's what they're good at, and that's what they started doing. Where they hadn't been doing it before. They'd been playing within themselves, and a sort of fear factor where they weren't allowed to express themselves properly. They were playing very, very tightly, and it causes mistakes. And okay, we still made mistakes as the season went on, but the mistakes during a game, they didn't let it get them down. But the best example I can think of, when early season, when we lost a goal, we were beat. That was us. There was no way we were going to come back. But if you think back to the times we've come back in games and got results, and even, dare I say it, I said towards the end of the season, we had to score 3 goals in a game to win, because our mistakes were losing 1-2 goals every game. But fortunately won a few, 3-2, 2-1, odd goals. And if you think of games even we've lost by the odd goal, 2-1 especially sticks in my throat, because we lost an awful lot of games by 2 goals to 1. And you get the feeling, well, maybe if we just been a wee bit stronger and keeping the goals out, we'd have won that game 1-0. But you can go back and pick up on a lot of stuff, but we're just delighted to finish 7th. Delighted.
And when you think about, obviously, the players that are definitely moving on, like obviously John McShane's going back to St Mirren, Nicky Devlin going to Motherwell. I mean, is that something you think about and are proud of, or do you just really concentrate on what we have?
Very much so, because especially big John McShane, because John, when he came here on loan, it was like a fish out of water. He just wasn't doing anything right. And all of a sudden this word again comes in, confidence. He scored in the first game against East Fife, and he never stopped after that. He was always a danger, and opposition managers, teams saw him as a danger, and that helps us. If he's a dangerous player, they're concentrating him, and it allowed wee Pat Walker to sneak in and score a few goals as well. Mark Gohaney pitched in with his goals. Big players for us. Nicky Devlin, I'd like to think I've played Nicky every game since I come in, because I saw the potential in him as a right back, and he's done really, really well. The only time I left him out was during the Motherwell situation. There was a lot of pressure on a 17-year-old. You know, he's getting signed by the SPL, and he's this, he's that. So we decided that week we'll just leave him out. But that's the only game he's missed, and he's been brilliant. And we can only wish these boys. John's get back to a 2-year deal at St Mirren. Hopefully I'll kick on. We'll watch him on the telly, the SPL games. Nicky's the same. And if Nicky, I joked there tonight about Nicky, if he doesn't do the business at Mother, we'll take him back in a minute. That could happen. But my hope is, without my manager's hat on, that Nicky kicks on into Motherwell's first team and has a fantastic career.
And in terms of Dumbarton for next season, do you have a solid plan yet of how you're going to try and form a team? Are you looking to keep most of the players that are here, or have you just made a firm decision yet?
Every season, I've decided not to speak to the players about who's going and who's staying until after the last game. So the boys will be on Tuesday night, and we'll make that decision. Well, I know who's coming and who's staying, but I've got targets, as all managers will have at this time. I've got players that I would like to see playing for Dumbarton. Whether we'll get them or not is a different kettle of fish, but we've high hopes of getting good players.
I think one of the things that maybe it sort of started last season is maybe going to be more prevalent this season, is that as inevitably every club in the country cuts their wage budget, all the players sit out for a longer time until they decide. So do you think it'll be hard to get a squad together early, and there'll be more players joining in later towards the start of the season, or are you looking to get?
I don't know. No, I would like to get them signed early, so I know they've got them on board. The question I'm going to ask the players on Tuesday night, and I hope you don't see this before Tuesday, the first question I'm going to ask them is, do you want to play for Dumbarton next season? And I'll gauge their reaction. Before we talk pounds, shillings and pence, anything, I'm going to test their reaction and see what kind of reaction I get to that question, and that'll tell me. There's guys there I know would play for nothing for Dumbarton, but there's other side of things where maybe they think the grass is green on the other side, and they may think, well, I can maybe get more money somewhere else. If you've got 11 players or 16 players it is now that want to play for you and want to play for Dumbarton, you're halfway there.
Obviously you spent a good chunk of the season as the interim manager. Did being offered the position and obviously accepting it change anything about how you worked, or did you always have in your head that technically you were the manager, so it didn't matter?
That's a good question as well. Obviously when I was brought in interim manager, and the club was in the situation it was in, I thought, well, let's have a crack at this, give it your best shot. It was a personal test for me to see if I could do it. And as time went on, I said, yeah, I can do this. I'm getting a response for the players. They're playing obviously for themselves on a Saturday, they're playing for me, and they're playing for Dumbarton. So the initial reaction from them told me that I can do this. And whenever the board asked me to take it on full time, if you like, I was delighted. But as you say, it just carried on. I didn't change anything. We just got them the same setup on the park, expressing themselves as footballers, and it's worked, because the best parts of their footballing ability has come to fruition. And you can see players, you don't like to name names, but Ryan McStay came through. Ryan started playing the way Ryan McStay can play, finding passes, confidence, bossing games. Young Mark McNiff, we've asked him to step up and be a monster, if you like, on the park, and he's becoming that monster. There's no many boys, I'm hoping next season, will beat Martin McNiff in the air, because he's got that ability. And there's other players I could mention. Mark Gohaney has been a revelation in the wing for us. He's scored goals, he's made goals, and that's a confidence thing with him as well, because Mark was languishing. Mark come on as a sub, played 10 minutes, showed wee snatches, but since October Mark has played almost every game, and for me he's been a standout. He's done really, really well for us.
If somebody offered you 8th place next season now, would you take it, or do you think that your ambitions are higher now?
You're always ambitious. You're always ambitious to do well. But having spoken to the board, they've already said to me that they would accept 8th place because the current climate, the way things are. But inside your head, you're thinking maybe we could do a wee bit better than that. You know, maybe we could just either sneak into the playoffs or you never know. You know, one thing I want to do next season, without a doubt, is go off to a better start. You know, because that's the last 2 seasons we've started badly, and it's let us play catch up. I feel like it'd be nice to be in a position where you could maybe have a few bad games, which you'll have during the season, but you can't afford to have them when you're down at the bottom. You can afford to have them if you're up at the top. You can have a couple where you get, and then you bounce back again. You know what? It's like every season the same. You won't play well for every game. They'll love you have won the league by a mile, but if you ask Gary Boland if they've played well every game, he'll tell you no. You know, that's just the way it is.
Do you think that spending time as assistant manager made taking over the job easier because you already had knowledge of all the players?
Yes, very much so. Having been an assistant manager for 4 or 5 seasons with Jim, I learned a lot, learned an awful lot, gleaned certain things and let other things go, and I felt confident when I got the chance that I could bring something to the table, you know, and have a crack at it myself. And it's early days, but so far so good. So far so good.
I'll let you go back and enjoy the rest of the night. Thanks for your time, and we'll catch up with you before the season starts.
Okay, thanks very much, Gary.